Let's have a look at some of the new features in CuttingEdge. First of all, if we go into the configuration, we have a lot more options here now. Basically, you can set the default method for a lot of different machining operations. And in addition, of course, remember you can set the default workpiece material and the default tool material. So in this case, aluminium and carbide is what I work mostly with, so that's why I have them as defaults. Let's have a look at some of the new operation features. So if you look at this face milling operation from this demo project, it's using a tool called Face D80. And if you remember, inside of CuttingEdge in the web UI, you can configure a keyword for different tool materials. Since there isn't a specific field in NC for it, you can just add a keyword. So you can see here that if I were to add PCD as a keyword to the tool name, it would then look up PCD feeds and speeds. So let's go in and add that. So if I now look up feeds and speeds, we get an interesting new dialog, and it's actually saying that for PCD face milling and aluminium, we don't have any cutting data for 80mm tooling, but we do have for 63 and 100mm tooling. So it's currently just showing us what we have in the operation. We could choose 63mm and hit OK. And that's going to both update the feeds and speeds with the feeds and speeds for 63mm tooling. And it's going to recalculate the tool path. If I go back in now, we can actually also hit 63 and go to the web page and look at the data for that setup. So aluminium, face milling, PCD tooling. If we go back to the list here and we find the 63, we can duplicate it and just update the diameter, and I'm just going to leave everything else as it is. We go back to NC and hit 80. Now we actually do have cutting data for 80mm PCD tool. So let's hit OK. Another interesting new feature is this recommended versus current operation thing, and this green check mark. So this shows up if you're actually using the recommended cutting data for the operation, and that's what we're doing here. So first, if I go into the roughing waterline operation, for example, you can see we have no checkbox because we're using these values, but that's the recommended values. So let's hit OK. And then go in and revisit this operation after it's generated. So now we get the checkbox here saying, okay, we're using the recommended values. We can of course also go into this tool and include chip breaker, because I have a tool type for chip breaker, and that's going to give us more, well, faster basically feeds and speeds, since a chip breaking tool often can deal with that. So let's generate that as well. Next up, let's look at the flatland operation and set cutting parameters. It's going to suggest for this 6mm tool to use finishing for a flatland operation. And we hit OK, and we get that updated as well. And the toolpath will be generated for us. Lastly, if we look at the chamfering operation, this chamfering operation is not using the actual NC chamfering operation here. It's just using a 2D contouring. So when we set cutting parameters here, it's going to suggest to use finishing operation parameters, but we can change that to chamfering, of course, and hit OK. And once that's generated, if we go back into it, you can see the green check mark appear.